I am here with a true architect of change, Jessica Seinfeld, and she is here to talk about a multitude of things that she does, but in particular, I wanted to talk about the Good Plus Foundation, which is something she started. And Jessica, I want to welcome you here. And first, I want you to understand that we identify architects of change as people who imagine, who challenge, who move humanity forward and want to make a difference with their lives. So you fit that description.
Because I'm such a fan of your newsletter.
Oh,
when
thank you.
I got asked to do this, I felt so honored because I know who you recognize on this program, and I feel I'm not even worthy of being here, but thank you. I'm so happy.
Good. Well, I'm glad because you came out here to do a fundraiser for the Good Plus Foundation, and the Good Plus Foundation really came out of your own experience, and it's focused on helping families who live on the poverty line in this country. And we should mention that those numbers are in the millions, 18 million, 22 million. The majority of them, I'll say, working women, not women sitting at home just chilling. People who are working, who are trying to raise families, and who live on the margins. So
have one or two jobs
exactly.
to just pay the rent.
So I think that's always a really good thing to change what many people might have an outdated image of what poverty looks like, what people who are living paycheck to paycheck look like. And your foundation, the Good Plus Foundation, you can go look it up online to find out exactly what it's doing. It came out of your own experience of having a child and not being able to donate your stuff. Tell me about that.
Well, it actually started my mom as a social worker. So I grew up with my mother always helping other families professionally. And then on the weekends, we would volunteer. We would, do all sorts of projects with my parents, which we didn't appreciate. She instilled that in us. I don't think I knew that until later. Until I had my own child, and I wanted to donate the stuff that my daughter had so quickly outgrown. You know, babies grow so quickly, and all of a sudden they don't need that newborn car seat anymore, or I needed a different stroller because this one was too big to fit into our elevator. And so I couldn't really find a place in New York City where we live that would take our stuff really easily. And I didn't want to give it to an organization that felt impersonal, because these are things that I felt really lucky to be able to afford, and and my baby had used them, and I wanted them to go into the hands of a new mother who would really need them. And I didn't want them to be bottlenecked somewhere at some other organization that was like doing 10 other things. And I felt like I knew a lot of people like myself who had babies and didn't want to store the things, because in New York City you don't really do that. You don't have storage.
But you wanted to give them away to somebody who couldn't afford what you were able to afford.
Absolutely. And I knew within blocks of where we lived there were thousands of people who were struggling. And so I asked all my friends, and I said, do you have tons of stuff? Do you have tons of baby stuff? We should be giving this away. And so I did this drive. And I did not anticipate the windfall of stuff that we would get from people from all over the country, because I went and did a little press around it, and I thought, we'll do this fun weekend drive and get tons of stuff and just give it away. And so we did get tons of stuff, and I started to give it away, and I realized that just giving things away didn't feel right to me. I felt like diapers and strollers and cribs and clothing and all the things that we all need, and and especially when you have a new baby or you're about to have a new baby, they feel absolutely critical, and everyone else has them. And
so tell me though, you get these products, or you get all these things into people's hands, but you said, that's not enough, so you took it another step further by doing what? We
wanted to partner with organizations that were already doing top level social service work, helping parents get their GEDs, helping parents with financial literacy, parenting skills, hard skills, soft skills, skills that are lost on the generations now of families that are not growing up with two parents in the home. And so there's a lot of skills that have been lost and not passed on. And so I felt like pairing our goods with services and education will help transform parents' lives instead of just giving stuff to people.
So you actually, and you also kind of tie getting the stuff to completing programs, right? So
incentivizing
it's almost like good parenting.
It is. We all know that And, you know, especially these days, like, we know bad behavior is rewarded and we know good behavior is rewarded. And if you keep becoming an investor in yourself,
Right.
if you keep, you know, showing up for class and being in a community of people that are just like you, and maybe they've failed once or twice, and this is like their last effort to
Right.
learn how to be a great parent, and you're sitting in a classroom with people just like you, and then you're getting diapers when you leave, and you get to bring that home and save yourself an hour and a half at your minimum wage job. Instead, you're getting things, not only education, community, and stuff, you keep coming back.
So what is that you found that surprised you the most, for example, in creating this foundation? I want to repeat again, called the Good Plus Foundation, helping families living paycheck to paycheck all over the country, not just in New York. As I said, you were out here raising money. And when you started pairing the stuff with the programs, education, what was the thing perhaps that surprised you the most as your foundation evolved?
How critical social workers are in this country and how badly they need support because their caseloads are massive.
Massive.
And they walk into situations that are dangerous at times, very stressful. And when you give a social worker or a nurse or a caretaker or somebody a tool to work with, then you're giving that social worker more access to this parent's mind share. The mother is going to listen to you when she's got 1,000 other things going on, including trying to find a way to put food on her family's table. If you're giving her diapers and you're showing her how to diaper her child that's
Right.
coming, or you're showing her with an actual bathtub how to bathe her newborn baby, you know, never look away, never walk away on your phone. Like, the nurse is there showing her.
Right.
That, to me, that formula is nothing I anticipated, and it is really everything to us, which is
Right.
pairing education and services with stuff.
It's also, to me, about dignity, right?
Absolutely.
The thing that you're giving dignity to somebody in addition to stuff, but it's like, I see you, I recognize that this is hard, and here's some help.
Well, the grind of poverty day to day, in
Right.
and out, is so demoralizing and demeaning. And when you have somebody who's showing you that they care about you, not just by giving you education, because sometimes education is hard to listen to when you're
Right.
just trying to get through one obstacle after another. But when somebody gives you something beautiful for your child and gives you diapers and gives you a stroller and a way to get to daycare or a way to get to your job, not holding your baby on a subway or a bus, which is what we see a lot, you feel like everybody else. You
Right.
feel like you're not only dealing with life in a way that has been so hard, you're also not missing everything that everyone else around you seems to have. And I think that dignity and that really, you know, graceful way of living life and not feeling, you know, like you
Invisible.
Yeah, invisible, but also that you don't have what everyone else has.
Right.
It just adds to so many issues that our families are facing. And so we feel like they feel cared about, they feel like we're invested in them,
Right.
and they invest in themselves, and then they have the tools that they need to actually learn how to be a great parent.
So one of the other things that I think is really interesting and exciting that you're doing is trying to focus on fathers. The vast majority of the face of poverty is we talk about single mothers with dependent children. And when we did the Shriver report, we did a lot on fatherhood and men and the misconception that these men don't want to be involved
can't believe
in
you're saying
their
this. Yes.
children's lives. The fact is they do want to be involved in their children's lives, and they feel like they're on the outside, that they can't get in, so many of them, and they don't seem to feel validated in this process either. And so what are you trying to do with the fatherhood part of your foundation?
It's amazing to hear you talk about it the way you do. We found our way to fatherhood because we had so many mothers who we were serving, and there were no services for fathers.
Right.
And we had these men who wanted to be part of this child's life. They wanted to help the mother, but they've never had a father figure. They didn't have any role models. A lot of them were, taking care of younger siblings by age 11 and never really had a childhood themselves. They don't, some of them don't know how to actually play because they never really spent time playing or had somebody sit there and read to them. And just read to them.
And talk also about what it means to be a man, right? That so many people grow up thinking that's a woman's job. I'm not a part of that. I'm not wanted. I'm not invited in.
And there is a bias in this country against fathers in that they are generally not as capable as mothers. And in many cases that's true. But in lots of cases we see all the time some of these men, single fathers, are incredible parents. But they just don't have the North Star that many of us have been so lucky to have.
So what are you doing for them in particular?
So what we're trying to do is there's a few incredible fatherhood programs across the country, but they're disparate and don't get a lot of support, certainly federally. And so what we're trying to do at Good Plus Foundation is to kind of corral this whole entire fatherhood movement, find amazing leaders in the community that can mentor our fathers and help us grow these parenting classes for fathers. And in fact, we have some mothers who want to join these parenting classes as well because what we love, Jerry and I both love to go into these fatherhood classes because we learn so much from them. It's so much about communication. It's so much about learning how to talk to your partner. That we all have the same issues as parents. There's we are so all similar in that we just want to be noticed and we just want to feel seen and cared for, and that does not have anything to do with economics. And so
let's pause a second because that's a very powerful thing to say. That everybody, regardless of whether you live on Park Avenue or you live in a housing project, if you're a single mom and an intact family, people all, when we talk about humanity, have a desire, right, to be seen for who you are, not for who you're married to, not for where you live, but you yourself.
Well, and when you have failed multiple times, you failed even once, there is now a prejudice against you.
Judgment.
A judgment from either the mom, the grandmother, whoever is in that child's life. You're already being judged because you have failed. And so we really like to work with people who need second chances because everybody, no matter what, deserves a second chance,
or third or fourth.
And we've all had them. And so to watch these men in our fatherhood classes sit in a classroom together. What really I think astounds me is that they have failed, most of them, and they have failed because they did not have a role model. They didn't fail because they're bad people. They failed because no one has been looking out for them since they were very young. And so that's a systemic problem that we face in this country. But I really find that what moves me the most is that these men stop whatever they're doing and they take, in some cases, like a 3-week course where they start over and they just learn how to communicate with their boss, with their partner, with the people in the class, with the mentor. And they just stop and learn how to do this basic thing called communication and how much that changes because so many of them have had horrific childhoods and have spent time in jail, have been disrespected in their minds their whole entire life. And so they stop what they're doing and they commit. And then they start to see what that investment means to them. And they start to see how much they can change and how that change really can come from within. And then they get the skills, they get these, how to tie a tie, how to call your boss if you're going to be late to work. These things that are second nature to many of us who have been lucky enough to have role models, that can change this guy's life. And then when he gets to when he shows up for a few classes and then he gets to take home 2 boxes of diapers and knock on the mom's door and say, look what I brought for the first time, he's all of a sudden a hero to her. And that starts to change the relationship in that dynamic, in that house. And then it just, what we're seeing is families spending time together. That child all of a sudden has access to his father.
Now, how does that make you feel? You started this foundation really because you wanted to donate your stuff. And here you are talking about parenting programs, partnerships, collaborating, fathers, dignity, being seen.
I would have never anticipated sitting here with you. Oh my God. But
this.
Yeah, I would never have thought that this was where wanting to give away my car seats and my strollers would have led me. And I do think that it's because of my mom and because of growing up only seeing what low-income families go through every single day. And I didn't grow up in a family that had a lot of money either. So it was like I'm so comfortable in this world. And I'm sort of more comfortable in this world than I am in the world that, you know, my husband's life entitles us to, which, you know, is not the direction. I could have, you know, stayed home and
Jessica's husband is Jerry Seinfeld. I was determined not to even talk about that.
You're so amazing. But I have to, you know, I have to
say husband, so I want to address that. But you talked about kind of judgments. You know, people judge people who are living in poverty, judge people who are paycheck to paycheck, judge single mothers. Have you felt judged?
Yeah, I think people assumed that this was like a fun celebrity wife project, and this was what I was born to do. And I feel so lucky that I found my purpose, and it was like right around me. It was right sitting in my lap. And I just needed, I don't know, I guess I just needed to have a baby to feel the gravity of what everyone wants to experience when they have a baby. They want to feel that joy. They want to feel that relief that, oh, my child is healthy. Oh, I have health care. Oh, I can go to the doctor when I need to. And all the things that, you know, feel pretty basic are so not basic to millions of people. And I just set it as my purpose in life to make sure that I can take away some stress from people's lives, but also that they can learn, that they can be better, that they can change their own lives.
So many people, you know, are worried about people's judgments, and you were saying that you think some people thought, oh, this is just a celebrity wife kind of pet project. Do you find yourself having to come up against that all the time, and how do you push it aside and say, look at me, I'm serious here, I'm not what you think?
It's funny, I think in the beginning people thought that, but I knew once you see what we do every day and how effective just this simple formula is, transformational services and education plus stuff, how it changes people's lives, I just couldn't look in any other direction but that. That is my laser focus. It has been for 16 years. And I've had incredible opportunities to do many things. And I just feel like this is my purpose, and if people have any, you know, judgments or questions about who I am as a human being, you know, that's really on them. And I think that's more about how they feel like maybe my doing lots of stuff challenges them, and that's kind of for them to work on.
What I love about what you're saying, because I wrote about it in the Sunday paper this week, is that people are often looking out there for their purpose, their calling, their mission. And it's usually, as I wrote, in your own home, in your own house, in your own car seat, right? And there you find your calling and your passion, right? And it always leads you to some place you never imagined. You started small, and now you've created something that's really affecting so many people.
Yeah, it's really nice.
That's great. So tell me, who do you meet so many people in this work, Jessica? Who inspires you? Who's an architect of change that you think people should know about, that you think is moving humanity forward, that leaves you a bit in awe? Other than your mom.
My mom, my grandmother too. My grandmother's a single mom, and she raised my mother, by herself in the 50s. And that was, I come from a line of incredible women. And so I'm very lucky. That's probably why I love women so much. And I care so much about single mothers. So that the question that you asked me about who are my champions or who do I champion single mothers and I champion single fathers. But there are two fatherhood leaders, because I did mention before that one of our big challenges is finding incredible leaders across this country who can step forward and help us bring fatherhood to the level that it needs to be in this country. And two of my heroes, one of them is Joe Jones, and he runs an organization in Baltimore called the Center for Urban Families. And then Alan Michael Graves, who runs a fatherhood project, it's called Project Fatherhood here in Los Angeles for the Children's Institute, Inc. And so these aren't famous people, but they're people
they're
who
on the front lines. They're
on
the
front
trenches.
line of doing something that is critically important to families in this country, to mothers in this country. These fathers that want to partake back in life, they want to get back in, or they want to get in, they just don't know how. How could we not give them this opportunity? And it would solve so many problems in this country. If you look at every study, children who have a father in their home, they will do better in life.
Right.
And so if we give them an opportunity, even if they're not in the home, if they're just in this child's life in some way. We do these programs all the time with some of our incredible supporters where we get to take dads to a Dodger game, or we get to take them to Disneyland. And these children, when they get to spend time alone with a father, their father that they've never spent time alone with, or our fathers can't even believe they get to go to Disneyland. Can you imagine then being able to take your child? And just that moment in that father's life connected to his child can actually change the trajectory of their life, because they get to see a life outside of the day-to-day grind of poverty. And so I really, I'm so focused on fatherhood. And so these two men are my heroes and who I want to know what they're doing every single day in the field.
Okay, so check both those guys out. As she says, they're kind of in the trenches working all the time, and there's so many millions of people, good people, doing that. I always say everybody gets all distracted with all the noise that's out there, but there's so many good people working day in, day out to change people's lives, transform people's lives, move humanity forward. Jessica's also written cookbooks, The Architect of Change in the Food Space with children, and now obviously with the Good Plus Foundation. So I hope you'll check out their work. I hope you'll think again when you look at her. If you thought she was just a celebrity wife just chilling, this is really serious work, and she's been in the trenches a long time doing this, transforming lives, one life at a time. So I want to thank you. Congratulations for coming and for being here and for all the work that you're doing. And don't forget, we're going to have her in the Sunday paper, so check it out if you don't register.
I love the Sunday paper.
You love the Sunday paper. Take a minute. It's all full of architects of change like her and like you, and people send in their ideas and they want to be an architect of change, so let me know. Thanks so much.